Hi everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Maya. Those that do know me, hey again. I thought today I would sit with my coffee and kind of reintroduce myself. I feel like I haven't had a video for a long time that's talking about me, why I'm on YouTube, my journey, everything. My kitten's about to walk in front of the camera. Start off with fun facts because that's just the easiest way to start. Leia's just gonna be in the corner. So I'm Maya. I have 2 kittens. I guess that's my fun fact to start because she likes the attention. I have 2 kittens. I live in the UK. I'm 26. I'm mixed race. I'm half British, half Jamaican. My fun fact, I have a black belt in Taekwondo. It's like my go-to fun fact. I did honestly get it for a reason. It wasn't just for the fun fact, but it's a bonus that it's a fun fact too that I can always share. I don't know where to start really. I guess I will probably start at somewhat the beginning of my journey into loving media and everything. When I was in school, oh gosh, I'm getting so bumbled. It's so weird. I went to film school instead of uni because when I was in school, I really enjoyed media and I decided that I would do 3 A levels basically around media. Was obsessed with media and filmmaking and editing and the storytelling side. So it just made sense to continue that in uni. I was very grateful to be there. The whole atmosphere there, so I went to Met Film School, which is in Ealing. It's actually based on Ealing Studios, so there's actual TV shows and films created there. Black Mirror, the film, was filmed there. So Will Poulter was there in our uni cafe one day, which was crazy. And we had the director of Ex Machina was also in our uni cafe. Who else did we have? I had a masterclass. It was a free masterclass that we got with the uni. The Brian Cranston, who taught us, did an hour-long masterclass. There were limited tickets, of course, literally within a second. Sold out. I got one and my boyfriend at the time didn't. But thankfully he still got to go in. But in the end, because he just turned up and hoped that he could fit in, it was such an experience and it was something incredible, even though I don't do film now, sense of what I expected to be doing when I was in uni. During film school, I learned everything: screenwriting, directing, costume design, producing, videography, editing, lighting, the works, everything. And it was incredible. I really enjoyed it there. It was quite intensive. It was a 2-year course. So instead of having 5 months as summer, it was 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks as your summer break. And I actually started on the 3-year course and decided that actually I'd rather finish my practical filmmaking degree and then faff about but with a degree. So then if I was offered a job when I'm doing these smaller jobs, I could just take it, which actually worked out better because right after I graduated, COVID hit and I just couldn't imagine doing a practical filmmaking course during COVID. And I know people did, but I'm just so glad that wasn't me, sorry. I couldn't have done it. We had to go in 5 days a week, which I was grateful for. Not being funny, as much as there are people that do uni and they can get online and watch the webinars and stuff, just that kind of learning wasn't for me. The idea that you're kind of set up for a job because you're having to go into uni 10 till 5 every day was once you get out into the world and get a job, is basically the same expectation. And especially in the film world, I feel like if anything, you have longer days, a lot longer days. And how could you possibly do practical filmmaking from home? You just can't. There's physical things that you want to learn and be in the room with other people who are creative and your tutors. The one really good thing about Met Film School, and this isn't even an ad, I feel like I should have some sort of affiliate link or something, but all the tutors that work there have to be active in the industry during that time. So it meant all the insight that you're getting are from people who are working in the industry, because a lot of unis, it tends to be, actually, how I've heard it worded is a failed businessman becomes a uni teacher or tutor. And that's not always the case, but it can sometimes be the case. And learning from people about film, yes, there's a curriculum, but knowing that they're in the industry, so that what they're saying they have insight to, chef's kiss. And was also helpful with networking, because once you've come out, you've gained that network of tutors who are already in the industry, been able to show your skills, they know what skills you have already, being able to offer to work with them on their future projects or down the line. I'm still in contact with a couple of them, but again, I'm not really in the industry, so it's kind of hard to then say that I'm really in contact, because it's somewhat irrelevant for them to be in contact with me when I'm not in the industry as much. So after film school, I did a lot of freelance gigs, including actually one that was awesome. I got to do wardrobe assisting for Peaky Blinders Festival, which is based in Birmingham, up north in the UK, in England. And I basically got to collect costume that was authentic 20s, 30s costumes. Even got to go into the National Theatre, which was so incredible. I felt like I was dreaming. It was just so many costumes and clothes in there, and shoes, accessories. It was incredible. And on the bus on the way up, all I could hear was like a mixture of 3 different accents, of Brummie accent, Irish accent, and I think there was another accent, but I can't remember it, which is just crazy, because it was all actors on the bus, bar the few of us that weren't. And I actually got that job through someone that I met at film school. When we were creating some of the content, some of the films during film school, we had actors that were paid to come in by the uni to be able to exercise with trained actors rather than just any old person off the street. So one of those actors was Dan, who, thanks Dan, he is a fight choreographer for films as well as being an actor. So he helped with the feature film that we created in film school, which was When Pigs Die, which was a dark comedy. And there was a lot of violence in that. But when we were at Peaky Blinders Festival, he also choreographed all the fights in the fight scenes and what was going on, as well as being an actor himself. Peaky Blinders Festival is immersive, so it's super cool. You get to walk around, and I was like fangirling at the same time. You get to walk around, there's 2 streets, I think it's 2 streets that are blocked off, and these actors will walk up to you and be fully in character the whole day. It's intense. The whole day, and will interact with you, but they also have storylines as the day goes on. So there's different areas. There were the gypsies, and they were called the travellers, but the gypsies is what they were called. And then the Peaky Blinders themselves, and the coppers, the Irish, and there was like a boxing ring where people were doing like fight scenes, but it looked real. There was like fake blood and everything. It looked real. It was awesome. It's so cool. So highly recommend going there. I think they're still running it, because this was 2019, so it was a long time ago. I've literally been out of uni for 6 years. That's crazy. And then COVID hit not long after, so I did Peaky Blinders Festival. I did some short films as well, doing a lot of costume. I was also doing social media management on the side. I discovered it more in uni, because when I was doing costume, once everyone's dressed, my job is basically done, which sounds so weird, but that's just how it was. That I would then take pictures and stuff and post them on the film pages, whether it was to promote for festivals or for like extra funding for editing or whatever. And so that was really enjoyable. I started discovering I really liked it. I did a TV internship, which I had the pleasure of doing after uni. I was actually originally planning to go to China to teach English as a second language, and then I got offered this internship and I was like, well, this is more in the direction of the career I want. And then COVID hit, so I was kind of thankful that I wasn't in China at the time, because it was just the world was so chaotic during that time. So I ended up because I was working on the side at Sainsbury's when I left uni so then I could do these freelance jobs without having to worry too much about income, because I knew that everything was covered with my Sainsbury's job. Then COVID hit, and so Sainsbury's became basically full-time during that time, because I couldn't do any other work, and sadly we didn't get furlough. I know people struggled with furlough, but at the same time it was a lot being in the supermarkets when everyone's panicking, people were being a bit ignorant, just a whole mess. I'm not going to go into it. I'm not going to unlock that door. Let's close that door. That was me doing a handle. I realised that was really weird, but it meant that my career was on hold for a bit like a lot of people during that time. And so I ended up doing my internship after that, which was amazing. I'm not going to diss it at all. It was 8 months. I worked in TV production, TV development, was an edit assistant, and was a production runner on big shows. So my internship was with Fremantle, and they are huge. So if you've seen Too Hot to Handle, they produce that. Produce or distribute, I actually don't know. I think produce. I think they made it. I might be wrong. I had a great time there. I met so many people I'm still in contact with. I was offered 2 jobs afterwards, but I decided not to go in that direction, unfortunately. I got every possible aspect of TV life during that time. Being able to be in the development where shows are being pitched was incredible. Then production, which is the next step once everything's funded. Production, which I was on Alan's Epic Game Show, which was filmed in Manchester, and because it was not long after COVID, it was a lot. I didn't see much of Manchester. I've actually never properly been to Manchester. I need to, which again is up north. Alan Carr as well, amazing man, so lovely. It was such a lovely time. People on that production as well were such amazing people. It was such a lovely experience. But the days are long. It was 12-hour days, 6 days a week. And because it was just after COVID, we were staying in a hotel, and you couldn't go out of the hotel with other people just in case, including the people you were in production with. So any food you had to get as takeaway to have in your room. So it was kind of, you ended up eating takeaway every day for like 3 weeks and being at work, and that was kind of it. So it was a great experience. Highly recommend to people that want to be in production to just go do it. Any experience you can, because the amount of people you meet, the network you make is huge, and it is about who you know, not what you know. But for me, it was just intense. I felt like I was far away from family. When you're working those 12 hours, you're not really on your phone because you're working. So it meant that I missed my family a lot. I was quite homesick. Especially, it felt like I was in a semi-long distance relationship with my boyfriend. So that was a lot. And then I was working on Britain's Got Talent, which was hectic, to say the least. It was a lot. It was intense, which you kind of expect. But when you're working in it, it's a different level. There's just so many acts, so many things going on, so much that needs to, almost like a domino effect, that everything has to be in order so that nothing falls apart. It was, yeah. Yeah. So that was 6 days a week, and it was a lot. That was intense. That was my last placement in my internship during that period, and I think it kind of put me off because I just couldn't do it anymore. I was exhausted, and the idea that when you get higher up in the TV world, it's not, those hours don't get cut down. If anything, you end up working longer hours, and not in all productions, but you end up working even the same hours, and you get paid more, but you're still away from family for months, and then you get like a big gap off, which works for some people. I think there's a lot of people that I've seen who have relationships with other people in TV, and then they kind of get it. But the idea of not being able to see family for so long, and then you have a month off, which someone in any other world wouldn't have that time off. That was a lot harder to then sync that up. And I was offered a full-time social media management role at an agency, which was 9 to 5. And I thought, well, evenings and weekends, I quite like the sound of that. So that's the direction I decided to go in. And that's where my sort of more social media management career proper started. properly started. I worked at this agency. It was a small agency, but we worked for quite big brands. We worked for Hovis, which is sliced bread. Nothing better than sliced bread. 2 Michelin star chefs, so Tom Kerridge and Adam Byatt. A startup which is Bike Club, which is a kids bike subscription service. So instead of you having to buy a kid's bike each stage of them growing up, that you swap it in and get a new one and you pay monthly for it. Very great idea. Again, not an ad, just I loved working with them. They were one of my favourite clients to work with, just because I thought it was such a fantastic, sustainable idea. Really just loved their vibe. And then after that, I was there about a year and ended up being made redundant, unfortunately. So after a year there, I ended up at another agency, an award-winning agency in London, and they had so many brands. I learnt so much from the small agency of working in a team, of working with big clients, of the personal aspect, as well as just how everything aligns with the marketing strategy too, especially for the Michelin star chefs. Like Tom Kerridge has such a huge presence, especially locally, with lots of different activities going on, from books being sold, his podcast, which we helped with, his social media for. He has charity, again, which we helped with the social media for, as well as festivals, different series. He's got so much going on. Adam Byatt had 3 restaurants, I want to say. So there was just a lot that you had to keep up with. Hovis had different launches. It was just diving into different things were quite interesting. So I learnt a lot there. And then leaving, and also just working in agency life of multiple accounts. I had already freelanced, but multiple accounts. And so the new agency I joined was much bigger, working with global brands that were international. So having things translated, because actually they're based in Germany, Canada, Netherlands, was awesome. So my main clients were Mutti, the tin tomatoes, Kuna, the pickles, and Buono, which are these mochi ice. And then I also helped, because I wasn't the main person on them, helped with other accounts. So at the agency there was Flying Goose, which is the sriracha sauce, Terry's chocolate, which if you haven't heard of Terry's chocolate orange, I mean, who are you? Sorry, that was really judgy, but also Tataku, which create sushi ingredients and sushi kits. And being there, and a lot more, but I didn't help with all of them. But being there was just so many talented people there. It was a lot bigger company. The talent there, the people, made it such an amazing place. I'm still in contact, I'm still friends with a lot of them, because I honestly really enjoyed my time there. There were people that specialised in animation, people that specialised in photography, people with different backgrounds, from PR to marketing as a whole, not just social media management. People that had big accounts themselves. It was so different and diverse, and there was a lot of different elements to that. So from working with brands that have like international brands, so humour being, trends being different, how things are translated or worded, culture is different, how even the meals that you create. We did do recipes, but also in general the photography that you take of certain food is only relevant to certain cultures. So that was such an interesting insight. We also worked with influencers, so learned a lot about influencer marketing there. Learned so much. I was there for a year and a half, so learned so much there, and I was so grateful. After my time there, I left because I wanted to start my own business. I left, and it's literally 6 months since I started my business, which is crazy. But also the commute was a lot. It was 2 hours for me to get into London and 2 hours back, and that was without delays or anything. And there were always delays, and I was doing that 2 days a week. Always delays or cancellations, which meant if 8 hours is the minimum each week that you're travelling and you're in the same country, I would happily do that to go somewhere else that was sunny. But to go to London, and because it was 9 to 6, it meant that I couldn't really, I had a couple of times that I hung out in London after work to try and socialise, but then it meant that it was kind of punishment the next day that I would have got home at midnight if I'd stayed a few hours in London and had to get up in the morning. It was brutal. So I just got to a point that I was like, I've learned as much as I possibly can learn now. I want to do my own thing and work with brands that I really want to work with. Not that I didn't want to work with those brands, they're just very corporate in the way that they are and just different. And some of them I enjoyed more than others for different things, really. It's never one thing. It's never that you hate working with a brand, because that's not the case. You would leave if that was the case. Fully, I wouldn't have stayed there that long if it was that I hated any of the brands, which I don't. I love them. And I think I just decided that it was time for the next chapter, which was starting a business. And that's what I've done. So I've started a social media management and content creation agency, and I'm loving it. I'm 6 months in, loving it. Love empowering brands that I want to work with. I will also share my YouTube journey because I realise I haven't touched on that. But I've thoroughly enjoyed starting a business, working with a team, and just being present with what I'm doing. Okay, let's talk about my YouTube journey. So I started YouTube in 2019 when I was in uni. I wanted to do it because I wanted to explore a bit more with filmmaking, filming myself, doing the editing, trying to test out different things, and also I wanted to build my confidence. I wanted to be a director when I went into film school, how that's vastly different now, but I wanted to be a director, and so I wanted to build my confidence of basically asserting myself, how I'm portrayed, and just everything, just taking those skills and lessons through YouTube and put myself out there in what I wanted to do. I actually did direct lots of different things, short films, commercials, and a web series that we made in uni. And I ended up going more towards the writing route and the costume design route. So after uni, I wrote a short film that is currently in festival rounds called 2K5, and I wrote it with my friend Nicole Pott, who directed it. And I thoroughly enjoy writing and seeing someone else in film. Let me step back. In film, there's 3 elements of storytelling. You have the script, the director and actors who adapt that script into a vision. Same with the cinematography, how that's portrayed. And then when it comes to the edit, it's almost like the story is then adapted in that sense too, that it changes depending on the cuts and how it's edited. So what was originally your story in the script very rarely becomes exactly translated in the edit, because there are different tones and themes to everything by the end point, just through the way it's been portrayed on screen, acted, through the way that it's visually shown is not necessarily going to be the same vision as what the writer had, and how it's then depicted through the clothes, through the characters, everything. So I enjoy doing that process as a writer, handing over that story and seeing what it ends up as. But when I was directing, I found it challenging doing it to someone else's story, adapting that. Not always, but it was very challenging for me. I liked writing and directing my own work, but then you're losing something by not adding another layer of creativity. Not all the time, but sometimes I think it's nice having that extra person, that extra role coming in and adapting something to make something creatively beautiful at the end. So it's why sometimes people tend to say it's better to collaborate than create a film by yourself from start to finish, where you're writing it, directing it, acting in it, editing it, because it's only followed your own vision. And sometimes that does work. Some people are very talented and very creative and you need that level. But other times I think it's quite important to have those different people and those creative minds coming together to create that collaboration and that finished product at the end that is slightly different, with different versions and visions added in as you go. But we're talking about YouTube. So I started, again, to build my confidence. I also started modelling because I wanted to understand how people directed me. I'm not an actor, So I wanted to be on the other side of the camera and understand how people directed me and how I felt about the words that they used to direct, because you don't say, can you do that more aggressively? You find ways of saying, can we make that a bit bigger? Or let's revisit the motivation of that character. There's so many ways of wording things that allows the actor, or I don't say actress anymore, but actor, to have some creative capacity to be able to adapt their performance and how they see the character towards your vision without you being so limiting with the words that you use that there's only one possible way to portray it. So fun little dance that you play in how you word things and how it comes across, because it can sometimes be belittling if, can you do that better? As if the take that you've just done isn't good enough. There's so many ways and things that you have to consider when you're directing. I did modelling to understand that a bit more, and then just thoroughly enjoyed modelling. I've always wanted to be a model, so it was like a somewhat dream come true. My dream come true was being able to get paid doing modelling. So I did a shoot for Stay Wild Swim, and that was incredible. They don't exist anymore, unfortunately. But the two founders are so lovely. I got to meet Natalie in person. She's so lovely. They have such a mission individually, but also together, and truly inspiring women. I am still in awe of them and excited for what is to come, because that chapter closed for them, Stay Wild Swim. But it was such a journey. And so how I started with YouTube was obviously university. As I modelled, I was getting more confident being in front of the camera, and I spent so long during uni. It was probably the first time that I had a proper boyfriend. We split up and I started travelling solo. So I ended up taking my camera with me and documenting a lot of that, which when I look back now, it's such great memories to have and to have it documented. So I'm trying to document more of my life, because I think it's great being able to watch those back and see who I was then and how I've changed over the years and evolved, and how things are so different to 6 years ago when I started. The one thing that I do want to mention, because someone commented this on one of my Vietnam videos and it was completely valid, and I was very grateful for the feedback. They were saying that my visual storytelling and editing needs some work, and same with it reflecting on me being a social media manager, me promoting my business. So there's like two elements here. Firstly, this is going to be the first time that I'm fully embracing my YouTube as serious, something that I really want to pursue. Before, I was doing it as a hobby, and it's still somewhat a hobby. It's a bit of a mindset shift at the minute to try to get to that place where I treat it as seriously as I do my client work. But when things are personal, and I know fellow creatives probably will relate to this, but when it's your own work, it's very hard to take it seriously, especially when it's not paying you, even if it's paying you yet or paying you at all. Even when it's a hobby, using your time for, yes, something that you enjoy, but actually to put real quality into the work that you're producing for yourself, not for anyone else, takes time. It takes a shift. So please have some patience with me while I'm creating content, trying to be consistent, trying to get in front of the camera more, because a lot of the times I'm just getting in the habit of actually documenting things. So on holiday, for example, I was using my phone a lot of the time, and not always the back camera and not always the best settings. And that's not what I do for my clients, but I was simply on holiday, exploring an amazing part of the world. I didn't take loads of gear with me. I was just documenting me visiting this beautiful place. So it's not going to be polished. It's just me raw of what I saw and what I experienced. And that will be the same across all my Vietnam vlogs that I'm sharing every other week at the minute. But I am working to make my content better. My client content is amazing, and I don't feel like it's a reflection of me as a social media manager. Social media managers don't do everything. I have a team. That's why I have an agency. I've got videographers, photographers, editors, graphic designers. There's people there. That's their skill set. And yes, I went to film school, so I know how to do certain skills, but it's not the same when you're doing your own work your own passion in comparison to work. So all that to say, I'm learning, I'm evolving, I'm doing my best. So have a little bit of patience with me and a bit of grace, but I am working on it, and I really appreciate the help and the guidance, because we're a creative community and I want to have that guidance. Even when I went to film school, I felt like I was in with my people, my fellow creative weirdos, because when you're not in a creative place, especially in corporate world, you feel like a bit of an outsider, the way your brain works, whereas when you're around fellow creatives, it's almost like you found your weird tribe. And I will forever be a weirdo and love it. So I just want to express that more on here and evolve and learn and continue to learn. I spend a lot of time at home working, especially with my job. A lot of it sat at my desk on the computer, and I'm trying to get out in the world, learn more about people, learn more about myself, because I'm very different to how I was, and I feel like I haven't had that moment to learn more about myself, especially recently. So that's why I'm coming on here. I'm trying to do that, trying to get my confidence back, trying to get used to talking without saying all the time, which I've already done so much in this video, but we're working on it. It's all things we're working on. It's never a finished project. You're always working on yourself. So yeah, that's me essentially. I love travel. I would love to do it more, but it takes time and planning, and the places that I want to go are quite far away, so that definitely takes time, planning and money. And we've got 2 little kittens who are very cute, but they can't be left on their own. I'd love to take them on adventures with us, but that's not how it works. And fashion is something else that I love, but I'm exploring it more and more as my body shape has changed a lot from when I was younger, and pretty sure a lot of women in their 20s find this, where you're trying to work out what your style is now from before. What I wore when I was younger is not the same style as what I wear now, and as I've changed as a person and evolved and grown, there's things that I do and don't wear, and my body's changed, my maturity, my, what's it called? Conservativeness has changed. How moderate I want to be with my clothing on Sundays, while others I don't. Like, I'm literally wearing a halter-neck top today, but that's purely because it's so hot in here. Whereas I won't wear really short skirts anymore, and I feel uncomfortable in them compared to when I was younger. I really didn't care. So it's just interesting. Same with makeup. I'm doing more makeup at the minute. Not loads, but things like my hair. Just trying different things to make myself feel comfortable, beautiful, confident. And I just want to take you guys on that journey of me constantly discovering more about myself and growing. Same with being a business owner. I'm 26 and I run a business. Like, I still get imposter syndrome for that. But at the same time, I know there are people that did it earlier. I know there are people that won't do it till very late in life. And there's no issue with that. Everyone's on their own journey. So I'm just trying to share my journey, and that was really heartfelt, sorry. But, well, not sorry. I need to stop apologising. That's very British of me. But if you want to come along on this journey with me, or just see travel content that I'm sharing, like I said, it's not polished, but it does show the beauty of Vietnam in a very raw way, because that's what I'm sharing and what I did as well. Then please subscribe. If you liked this video, thank you for staying along for this long if you did, and please give it a thumbs up. And I would love for you guys to introduce yourself in the comments. I know there's not loads of you yet, but that's even more reason to get to know each other. And I really want to build a community on here where it feels like, I don't want to say like family, like a chosen family, like a little community would be amazing. So please introduce yourself in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon.